It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions.
Touchdown, San Diego!
Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Thursday? We do. From the Dixieline Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, we welcome you to our Thursday podcast, Hacksaw's Headlines, as we get ready to kick off a great sports weekend. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my co-host and the inventor of this podcast. It's his bleeping fault, the venerable John Riley. We welcome you to our Thursday podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego, and the new one that's opening up in Dana Point in Orange County. You got projects, they've got materials. You want ideas? They can be your best friend and your consultant at Dixieline Lumber. John Riley, we got so many different things to cover and talk about. A couple of program notes. We're going to do something special next week on this podcast. I'm going to be traveling. We are going to run on Monday and Thursday 2 creative features that we invented and we thought would really make neat shows. On Monday, to celebrate the World Series, we're going to do an entire show on the greatest baseball movies of all time. I think you're really going to like it because John and I argued back and forth. How cool would it be? And then when we did it, we argued back and forth, and it turned out pretty cool. So next Monday, I'm going to be on the road, but we will have a Monday bonus podcast, and the topic on the table, the best baseball movies of all time. Next Thursday, as I'm traveling, we will have the best football movies of all time, and you don't want to miss either one of those. Couple of other items. If you like sports, we invite you to check my website. I did my World Series and NBA previews this week. Just go to the website, leehacksawhamilton.com. It's written. If you check the website every morning when you have your first cup of coffee, you'll be fully informed with what's going on. Want you to join Hacksaw's Insiders Group. It's easy when you go to the website. Right on the front page, there's a big orange box. Fill it out. You'll get on our email list for all the bonus stuff that we send out. Want you to share. Want you to subscribe. If you subscribe on the YouTube channel, you'll get the alerts every time we put something up on the YouTube channel, and we do that a lot of different days of the week. And we also, and I know you're on social media, I want you to join my Twitter All-Star team at Hacksaw1090. Hit the follow button at Hacksaw1090. Hit the follow button. John, we're going a lot of different directions, but all things in the community right now, everywhere I go, all the people want to talk about Dodgers, Yankees, Dodgers. Why the hell did the Padres not get there? Man, everybody's got an opinion. It's so cool. I think the Fall Classic's going to be great.
Well, you had some people at the fitness center bending your ear this morning, right?
Oh, man, I've been in 3rd and 17 all day. I'm so far behind on my schedule of things to get done because everybody wanted to talk baseball. That was cool. So that's going to be the jumping off point today. We do want you in fans forum. When we are done, we create a window for you to come co-host. John Riley invented it. It's his fault. Blame him. Like it or dislike it. But how does Fans Forum work?
Yeah, Fans Forum is your chance to get involved. You have a question or comment in the world of sports for this man, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. This is your opportunity. So just type in your comment or your question in the live chat on X, on YouTube, or on Facebook, and we'll get to you, Fans Forum, at the very conclusion of Hacksaw's Headlines.
We are ready. Let's start. Let's talk baseball. Which topic you want to put up there first?
Well, we got to go World Series, right? I mean, that's this time of the year. Here we go.
This is so cool. I just think there's so many storylines here to pay attention to. World Series. Big Apple versus Tinseltown. Bronx Bombers versus Dem Bums. The Pinstripes against Dodger Blue. Broadway versus Hollywood. Subway versus the Freeway. 27 rings versus a team that's got 7 rings. One franchise has won 41 pennants. The other has won 25. And historically, who can forget Casey versus Smokey? Casey Stengel versus Walter Alston. Going to be a great World Series. It was really interesting. Media day early today, both managers meeting with the media in Los Angeles before Game 1 tomorrow night. And Dave Roberts was asked, would you name your starting rotation for the World Series? Pay attention to this, will you, John?
I am.
So Dave Roberts says, Jack Flaherty, Game 1. Josh Yamamoto, Game 2. Walker Buehler, Game 3. Johnny Allstaff, Game 4. The media looks up. It's Johnny Allstaff. Yeah, bullpen day.
Right.
So you're smart. You got it.
I've heard that term before.
Okay, a lot of other guys didn't. This is going to be unbelievable. You got Judge, you got Soto, you got Stanton, you got all things Dodgers top of the batting order. You got Garrett Cole and what now appears to be 4 healthy starters for the New York rotation. You got 3 starters for the Dodgers. Couple might be unlimited innings. And then you got Johnny Allstaff. It's going to be bullpen day in Game 4. I don't know what to expect, except there will be home runs. I think the pitchers are going to get shelled in this Fall Classic. I'm just so looking forward to this, just because it's New York and it's L.A., and I grew up in that environment of the Yankees and the Brooklyn Dodgers, and so I'm just so amped to see this. And then obviously the great storylines of Showtime versus Here Comes the Judge and everybody else in the batting order, then the pitchers. So I think it's going to be a cool Fall Classic. And John Riley says,
how many MVPs are we going to see in this series? Because Mookie and Freddie and Shohei have all won MVPs. And then has Judge, Soto, and Stanton all been MVPs?
No, Stanton and Judge have.
But not Soto.
Not yet. Everybody's projected that's coming. That's coming, and he's put up some unbelievable statistics.
That's still amazing. I mean, to have that kind of star power and this. And, yeah, I'm kind of over the Padres. I've gotten over it. And so as a baseball fan, this sets up really nice. 2 big-time teams. This is not going to be like a, 4-game sweep. I mean, this is going to be a competitive series.
I think the sucker goes 7. And it might be a series of 7 Survivor. Because I think it's going to be hard. I think both have got issues. Obviously, Dodger pitching staff has just got a huge question mark. And Yankee bullpen, to me, I don't think is all that trustworthy. That's a question mark. So this is cool. And I think the TV ratings are going to be mega in the States. And I can't imagine what the TV ratings are going to be in Japan. As we talked about last week, that 5th and final game, Padres-Dodgers, Ohtani, Yamamoto, Yu Darvish, drew 12.9 viewers in Japan. And the fact that this is Ohtani versus Judge, I think it's going to be spectacular. I mean, baseball fell into this, and this has turned out great, and I think it's going to be a great series.
I was listening, I think it was 97.3, and they were interviewing Brett Boone, and it was interesting, and he was talking about how they're hoping that if the Yankees have a clinching game, they can get, Brett and Aaron's dad, Bob Boone, out there to watch the game. I think that'd be pretty special.
Yeah. And isn't it interesting, because at different points of this season, get rid of Dave Roberts. At different points of the season, blame Brian Cashman and hit the eject button on Aaron Boone, because both teams went through really rocky times.
Yes.
And Friday night, they're all going to be there because they're all in the Fall Classic. And everybody else, including all the critics, it's like you and me watching it at home on TV.
Now, if there is a Game 7, I think it drifts into November, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's always kind of weird.
Especially, yeah, exactly. Although it'd be out here. If there is a 7, it's a 2-3-2 series.
Okay, so hopefully no snow.
But it's going to be chippy. It's going to be nippy in New York at Yankee Stadium for games 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, see, that's what makes a Fall Classic a Fall Classic. As the temperature changes, it's no longer the boys of summer. It just makes it just going to be a great 7 games.
When I was a kid growing up, though, the Fall Classic ended first or second week of October while the leaves are still on the trees.
Okay.
We've had Fall Classics where there have been snow flurries and guys are bundled up in the dugout like you wouldn't believe.
I remember that happened with Cleveland, like in the mid-'90s when they were in the World Series, and I thought that was just crazy.
Yeah, with the Indians. But that's the way baseball's become. I would hope we wouldn't get to a point where we get real blast cold weather that really impacts the pitchers, because the pitchers have to be able to feel the ball, hold the ball.
Right.
And so we'll see. But I at this point, I don't think the forecast for next week is going to be real bad on the Eastern Seaboard in terms of cold.
Now, this is going to be a 2-3-2.
Exactly.
So the 2-2-1-1-1, is that just something from old-time days?
Yeah, and I think cross-country travel's got a lot to do with it, and the Union had some impact there. So 2-3-2 that works.
But the 2-2-1-1-1 was a lot of fun at the end.
Yeah, but boy, if you had to go back and forth 3 times in 6 days and on flights, it'd be
awful. Yeah, that's what makes it great.
Been there.
As a fan.
Been there, done that. Okay, World Series. You have an opinion. Fall Classic. I'm looking for baseball fans to come in. You tell us Yankees or Dodgers, who's going to win and why. I mean, we get hundreds that watch us live stream. You're watching us live stream, jump into the chat box and just giving us an opinion, give us a one-sentence rationale why it's going to be Dodger Blue or Yankee Pinstripes Fall Classic. One baseball topic to the next one, John.
Yeah, Fernando Valenzuela. We lost a great one, Lee.
Oh, Fernando-Mania. Never forget it. We knew he was sick, passed away of cancer, went very fast. I'm just going to run through some notes and headlines that I made just as I sat to think about this guy. Mystical lefty, miracle screwball. You know, in baseball, we have stood and we've watched the bully on the mound that was Nolan Ryan. We watched the brazen guys on the mound, like Steve Carlton and Randy Johnson. We watched the mad scientist on the mound, a Greg Maddux or a Tom Seaver. And we watched fury on the mound that was Bob Gibson. Those are all some of the great pitchers of our modern era. Fernando-Mania. He was like a comet across the sky. Came out of nowhere, became an unbelievable star, gave us 6 unbelievable years at Dodger Stadium, and like the comet then went down on the horizon. He impacted the Dodgers in terms of the pennant race. He impacted the Latino communities up and down the West Coast, from Frisco to L.A., into the OC, into San Diego, and then to his home country, Mexico, and reignited the love of the game. Now, it's an amazing story how he was discovered. The Dodgers' lead scout was Mike Brito, cigar-smoking, Panama hat, those white beige suits.
You'd always see him like behind home plate, sometimes with the jugs gun.
Exactly. He was scouting a veteran shortstop in the Mexican Summer League, 1980. He saw the 17-year-old kid pitching in the Mexican Summer League against men and dominating. That was Fernando Valenzuela. They signed him in 1981. He got to the major leagues with a snap of the fingers. At age 20, first 8 starts, he went 8-0. First 8 starts, 8 complete games. First 8 starts, 5 shutouts. First 8 starts, 0.50 ERA. Wow. That was amazing.
That's amazing.
And he showed up with 2 pitches, fastball, curveball. That was it. I mean, he was a horse on the mound. He was a workhorse on the mound. And then he pitches the Dodgers into the pennant race that first magical season. They get to the World Series in 81, and they're losing to the Yankees 2-0 in the World Series. Out of desperation, they come to him the night before Game 3. Lasorda tells him, "You're starting." Fernando goes out, 155-pitch effort. The Dodgers beat the Yankees, stay in the series, eventually win the series. In a 6-year span from that rookie season, for 6 consecutive seasons, Fernando threw anywhere between 251 and 285 innings every season.
That's crazy.
Amazing. His career stats, 113 complete games, 453 starts, record of 173 and 153. He threw over 2,900 innings. He had almost 2,100 strikeouts. He also walked 1,150 batters. He threw a lot of pitches. How did he become great? It wasn't just the fastball and the curveball, but Mike Brito sent him to the minor leagues with a former Major League pitcher, Bobby Castillo. And Castillo taught him the screwball. Nobody was throwing it in Major League Baseball. Nobody's hardly ever thrown it because of the wear and tear factor on his shoulder. He took to that pitch just like that. And by the time he got to Dodger Stadium that first year, you could not hit it because it was dipping. His legacy, the windmill windup. His legacy, he could do it differently like Juan Marichal, like Johnny Cueto. His legacy, his love of L.A., love for the Dodgers, and the Latino fans everywhere's love of Fernando. And he was humble. He came from a small farming community in central Mexico. 12 kids in his family lived in poverty, and look what he became. And it wasn't about money. It was about just being at Dodger Stadium. That's what it was for him. He became the Mexican Sandy Koufax.
Hey.
That's kind of interesting. And I think the other thing, when he pitched at Dodger Stadium, the dress code of the day, according to Vin Scully, sombreros. Everybody wore sombreros. So,
nice.
I mean, what a spectacular story of what this guy became. Like the comet, got to the top and obviously came back to Earth. Hell of a guy. And he spent 24 years as a broadcaster once he retired after a 14-year career. And he made a bunch of stops at the tail end. And of all the places he went, I mean, he was in Philly, he was in St. Louis, he was in Baltimore. His best stop post-Dodger career was about 2+ years with the San Diego Padres.
Yeah.
So, cool. What a man. Sadly, he went really, really quickly from cancer, but hell of a guy. What a story. And his impact, what's the word I'm looking for? Ambassador?
Oh, yeah.
Ambassador into the Latino community to resell them their love of Major League Baseball. And there was only one other Mexican player, because it was hard to get players out of Mexico because of their contracts. There's only one other player that really had an impact in Major League Baseball. And it was a second baseman with the Cleveland Indians back in the 1950s and was their captain of the Indians' 1954 World Series team, Bobby Avila. And Avila retired after a great career with the Indians and became the president of the Mexican League. So, but boy, Fernando's impact is just spectacular. And this week in Mexico, they have a tradition. I was not aware of this till late last night. Somebody brought it up to me. They honor the dead. I think it's called the Day of the Dead. I think the ceremony is actually November 1st.
Yeah, Dia de las Muertas?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's what it's called.
I cut Spanish class that day. So, the Day of the Dead, they are going to fly Mexican flags and Dodger pennants on the Day of the Dead because everybody remembers all their families who've passed. But they're going to do this on Friday, November 1st to honor him.
That's cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So that's the storyline on Fernando. Screwball, talk about it. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, that's a tough pitch to throw. I remember Brent Honeywell was throwing that one. You know, for me, I was in high school when Fernando-Mania came out, and I just remember, who the hell is this guy? And of course, I'm thinking, why does he have to play for the Dodgers? Why don't the Giants ever get a guy like this? But he was fantastic. And think about this. This was 15 years before the internet was even a thing. And he still got such huge publicity because they would be on Monday Night Baseball. They would have him pitch and the local news would cover him. I mean, it was mania. And on one level, I was like kind of, bumming that it was happening with my rival team, but it was an exciting moment for the sport. The thing about Fernando that I don't know, I find interesting is, number one, you said it, there's very few ball players that have come out of Mexico, and you think we would have seen more from Mexico. That's always surprised me.
It's just because the Mexican Federation and Major League Baseball have not been able to come to an agreement about when guys can become free agents. Now, he got signed at age 17 or age 18. Mm-hmm. So he was out the door before he became eligible to sign, to get a multi-year contract, which would have locked him in. So that's why. There have been more modern-day guys. Teddy Higuera, Milwaukee Brewers, was from Mexico.
Yeah. Okay.
But his career flamed out because of shoulder and elbow problems. But there have not been very many superstars. Bobby Avila of the Cleveland Indians in the 50s was the first one, and then Fernando was probably the most famous of all time. Just really special. My goodness.
Well, the other kind of interesting story, it's kind of a tangent, is about the whole Chavez Ravine development. And when they removed people from their homes with eminent domain, it was a Latino community. The Latinos hated the Dodgers in L.A. and throughout America. And then when Fernando arrived, everything changed.
Yeah. Big ceremony on Friday night. Don't miss whatever's going to be done in pregame. I think it's going to be spectacular. It's probably going to be emotional. I'll be intrigued to see if the Dodgers paint number 34 behind home plate to salute Fernando, whether they wear a patch, what they're going to do on the video board. Sombreros. Who wants to wear a sombrero to the game on Friday? So that's cool. By the way, speaking of the Dodger-Yankee rivalry, let me just go back. Some of this was before my time, but maybe there's some old-timers that will remember this, or maybe there are baseball junkies who are going to remember this. But if you're a Dodger fan or you're just a baseball fan, you got a comment in Fans Forum. Chat box is open on Fernando Valenzuela. This history of the Dodgers and Yankees, dateline 1941. Dodgers are winning the World Series. Mickey Owen drops a third strike behind home plate. Yankees rally. Yankees win the 41 World Series over Brooklyn.
Oh, my God. I didn't know that.
1947. Bill Bevan, Yankee starter, throwing a no-hitter. 2 outs, bottom of the ninth. Utility man Cookie Lavagetto comes off the bench, hits a pinch hit, RBI double. Dodgers win the game in 1947, busting up the first no-hitter. 1955, Brooklyn. Young left-hander Johnny Padres at Ebbets Field does what nobody had ever done before, pitches the Dodgers. They beat the Yankees in 1955 in the World Series game. 1956, Don Larson. Perfect game Yankees against Brooklyn. Other marquee events in the Dodger-Yankee World Series history book. Sandy Koufax, 15 strikeouts in one game. Reggie Jackson, 3 home runs on 3 pitches in one game.
That was awesome.
Fernando's first World Series win got the Dodgers to win the World Series in 81. And then there's the incident where the Dodgers win the World Series. Tom Lasorda is dancing on the field. George Steinbrenner throws a punch and breaks his hand. There is so much history here. This is the 12th meeting between the Yankees and Dodgers in the Fall Classic. Yankees have won 11 times. Dodgers have won the World Series ring 3 different times. Man, this is so cool.
Now, 1947, wasn't that Jackie Robinson's rookie year?
Yes.
So he
but at this point, I don't know that Jackie, did he play in that World Series or did he get there the following year?
I'm not sure.
He might have signed in 46, went to Montreal. He might have been called up in 47. I'd have to go back into my baseball encyclopedia to see if he played in that World Series. But there have been so many cool events in games between the Dodgers and Yankees.
It's interesting, you talk about the Dodgers and their championships. I go back to the 60s. They had some matchups, the Dodgers with the Twins, didn't they? Like a few times, which I thought was kind of interesting.
And 59 was the Dodgers and the White Sox.
Yeah.
The Go-Go Sox.
The Go-Go Sox.
Louis Aparicio and all those guys running the bases with reckless abandon.
Well, for me, that time frame, 77, 78, and even into 81, I mean, I was a young kid. I was in junior high or high school, and I just remember that Reggie Jackson 3 home runs. That was
3 pitches.
Yeah.
The first pitch, each at bat.
It was one of those, I think, was the year of Bucky effing Dent, wasn't it? That put the Yankees into the World Series.
Yep.
Yeah.
And of course, also, the Dodgers had the great World Series showdowns with the Orioles, the Jim Pancake Palmer era. That was pretty good, too.
Oh, so when did Thurman Munson pass away in that plane crash?
I covered that. It would have been 1970. Boy, you asked me too quick. 78, maybe?
So he was maybe only there for 1 or maybe 2 of the World Series? Because I remember that was a big deal when he passed.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he was the captain, wasn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a rough go. But those were classic series in the late 70s.
Fall Classic is back. This is going to be fun. So join us. Fans Forum chat box is open. We want you to share thoughts, opinions, ask questions, make statements about the World Series. One more baseball topic on the table here. We do have to cover this.
Yeah, the Padres presser with A.J. Preller. You're going to break it all down?
Yeah, A.J. Preller met with the media for about 25 minutes, rationalized a whole bunch of things. We put his quotes here for you to actually analyze and see what A.J. had to say. He talks so positively about the course of the season. And as I wrote in my One Man's Opinion column on my website, great season, great disappointment at the end. And he talked about the record-setting attendance each of the last couple of years and how, quote, something is really special. And he says, our theory is We're going to win championships, and we're going to win responsibly, which means there are budgetary controls that are going to stay in place, the operation of the franchise. Says he really wants to win with ability. That's what the roster's all about. And stability, front office to dugout to clubhouse, and he thinks he's got that with Mike Shildt. As it relates to what happened in the playoff series with the Dodgers, kind of intriguing comment. Hey, it's postseason baseball. 2 games change things. If those 2 games had happened in July, we wouldn't be talking about it. Yeah, in a sense, yes. But the reality is none of your big bats being paid big money did anything. And that's, unfortunately, that's the thought that Padre fan carries with him into the offseason. His praise for Mike Shildt is unbelievable, that he came in, solved the clubhouse issues, solved the dugout issues. He blended a coaching staff from all different places. He says they will sign Ruben Niebla to a contract extension. This is home for him. And he is a firm believer that you have to learn how to win in postseason, and they'll learn a great deal from this. They will build from this experience. So those are the comments of A.J. Preller. John Riley, reaction?
It's still mind-boggling that they couldn't score, in those last 24 innings. It's funny how it was always fire A.J. Preller. Everyone was angry with him. Then we said he had a great year. You were calling him maybe the favorite for the executive of the year. And then they disappointed in the playoffs. I mean, so how stable is A.J. Preller?
I think he's stable now. But see, he's got a contract extension through the end of 26. So I never quite believed, unless it was a disaster, they would hit the eject button on him. So I think he's stable here, and we'll see what next year brings. But that intangible comment about we're going to win responsibly, that means budget constraints. And he's got a massive challenge on his hand this winter, John. You and I talked about it last week. He's got 7 key guys that need big pay raises or going to get pay raises, either through arbitration or negotiation of contract extensions. So how's he going to juggle the books? If they don't want to go beyond $169 million, how's he going to add more money with the 7 guys he's got? Somebody's going to wind up leaving along the way. So interesting, challenging offseason once the World Series is done, and then they move on to the winter baseball meeting. So if you got an opinion or response to what AJ had to say, the press briefing was pretty good. He answered most all the questions, and I extracted what I thought were the real hot bullet points from what he had to say. It was a positive press conference because it was a positive season. At the end of the season, the postseason turned out to be a massive disappointment. Hey, we get to halftime. This podcast is brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers. 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. You got projects at home, kitchen, bathroom, bedroom, family room, his man cave. You got projects, these people have materials. You got projects, these guys be glad to be your consultant and give you ideas. These are the people we've done business with. You should too. Dixieline Lumber. And a couple of program notes. I'm going to be on the road traveling. We got something really special planned for you next Monday and next Thursday. We're going to do, John and I put this idea together. We are doing on Monday the best baseball movies of all time. You won't want to miss it because we got film clips, we got opinions, and of course we'll invite yours. That's Monday. And Thursday, while I'm still on the road, we're going to do the best football movies of all time. And we're pulling some stuff out of the archives that you won't believe. So next Monday, Thursday, don't miss what we're going to present. John will anchor it, the best of all time. Hey, you like sports? We invite you to check my website, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. I write every day on it. First thing in the morning, as your first cup of coffee, read what I write on my website. I think you'll really like it. While you're there, register, join Hacksaw's Insiders Group. You get all kinds of bonus emails from us. Want you to share, want you to subscribe. That time when you subscribe, we alert you every time there's something new that we place on the YouTube channel. And we also want you, because you're on social media, we want you to go ahead and join my Twitter All-Star team. Go to X, just type in my handle, my slug line, my name, at Hacksaw1090, Hacksaw1090. Hit the follow button so you'll get alerts every time I put something up on social media, and there's a lot of stuff I put up on social media. Okay, we move on to the second half. John, we're going from all things baseball to what are you doing this weekend in terms of NFL football?
NFL, week number 8. Look at these teams.
Yeah, we had some interesting games. We start Thursday night football. This is kind of a huge game. Can the Rams save their season? The Rams beat the Raiders last weekend, kind of beat them up. Rams are starting to get healthy. KUPP is going to play tonight. There's a rumor that Puka Nacua, who's practicing, might be activated also to play. The Rams are trying to save their season. Minnesota, now it's hard to say with a 5-1 record, but they did get punched last week by Detroit. So there's a burning question. Has Minnesota got something to prove going into L.A. to meet the Rams? That game bears watching. Can the Rams win and kind of drag themselves back into an NFC wildcard spot? Second game, Philadelphia Eagles. They play Cincinnati. This would be a wild shootout because Bengals don't have any defense. You got Jalen Hurts versus Joe Burrows. You got an Eagles team that suddenly is pounding the football with Saquon Barkley, and the Bengals don't play much run defense either. This is going to be a really intriguing game because Philly's defense has been erratic. No pass rush, inability to cover wide receivers. So it might be a throwing contest between Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow. Buffalo, road trip. They go to Seattle. This is going to be hard. This is Josh Allen versus Geno Smith. Now, the Bills, of course, made the trade to get Amari Cooper. The Bills think they're better offensively. Seattle does not have DK Metcalf. He's out with a strained knee. So Buffalo, this is a big game if they win this game on the road. Kansas City Raiders. This is a weird statistic. The Chiefs are unbeaten. They're sitting there at 6-0, John. Mahomes has 6 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Mahomes is only averaging 231 yards per game throwing the football. And their wide receivers that are on the roster in 6 games have caught only 27 passes. They're doing it with tight ends and with the running back Kareem Hunt in place of the injured Pacheco. This Kansas City team is so far away from what they used to be, and Mahomes' statistics are way off, way down, and yet they're still winning. Chicago Bears, Washington Commanders. We had hoped this would be Caleb Williams versus Jaden Daniels. Daniels has not practiced. He's got rib injuries. I don't see even if he does a walkthrough on Friday, I don't see how he plays on Sunday with that minimal amount of practice. Washington finally got beat. So we'll just have to see whether or not the kid in Washington can play against the kid in Chicago. And then you got all kinds of trouble. You got Dallas staggering at home. Ton of controversy about Jerry Jones and distractions. Now Jerry Jones, who last week threatened the talk show host on his flagship station, I can have you fired, is now feuding with Mike McCarthy over play calling and where's the running game. And now the players are barking at Jerry Jones. I didn't know this. They give tours daily through their new practice facility. Mm-hmm. And the fans are right there while the players are in meetings, looking through the glass, knocking on the window while the players are in meetings. It's the most absurd thing. And Jerry's marketing, Jerry's world.
Yeah.
Players are really upset at that. And then you got San Francisco, and they have so many health issues. San Francisco, Deebo Samuel was in a hospital for a day and a half, pneumonia, fluid in the lungs. They lose. Ayuk, gone for the year, 2 torn knee ligaments. That's really bad. Christian McCaffrey was supposed to practice, has not been taken off the PUP list. They still don't know when he's actually going to start doing football-related things, and the clock is ticking to midseason and beyond. So those are the marquee games on the NFL schedule this week. The Chargers get a battered New Orleans Saints team. Chargers are still beat up with all their type of injuries, too. So pick a game here that you think is really important. Go ahead, John.
I just love seeing the Cowboys struggle.
Oh.
And Jerry Jones getting upset and threatening to fire talk show hosts and everything else. We did the tour about 3 years ago at AT&T Stadium, and it was really nice.
Taj Mahal.
It is. And we went through the not just the seating area. We went on the field. We went into some of the luxury skybox areas, and behind them were like these exclusive members-only bars. I mean, of course, we were there like on a Tuesday afternoon when nothing was going on. But that is a really nice facility.
Bring your credit card, pal.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And so you do walk by some of their offices. So I'd imagine if they had a conference room with glass, there'd probably be like executives doing business there. But the question I wanted to ask you is really not so much about these games, but what was your breakdown on Monday night with the Chargers? How did that all go wrong?
Whole wild number of things. They got out toughed. I wrote a column about this on Tuesday morning. You can find it on my website. They got out toughed. They don't have wide receivers. They dropped 9 passes in that game. They had guys running open. Herbert was under a lot of pressure. He's throwing it. Their tight end, Will Dissly, I think, dropped 3 or 4. Street free agent wide receiver Jalen Reagor caught a 40-yard pass on a crossing pattern, turned into a 40-yard gain, fumbled the football down at the 5, went into the end zone touchback. Couldn't run the ball worth a lick with J.K. Dobbins. So, I mean, they got a lot of glitches. And then conversely, bad tackling. They got mugged. They got mugged at the point of attack. Their defensive front made no stops on James Conner. They could not stop their wide receivers. Yards after catch were significant. Kyler Murray had a 41-yard quarterback option run with coverages got blown, and he ran right by everybody. So, I mean, that's Justin Herbert cannot do this thing by himself. Doesn't have a lot of people around him. He's still got guys nicked up. So, but they're only 3-3. There's still an awful lot of football to be played. But I said last week, in Jim Harbaugh's last week's sales pitch event, his tent revival speech was, "We're back. Everything's okay." And my response was, "Who the hell you beat?" Now you got beat by Arizona, which was lousy. Prior to that, you got mugged by Pittsburgh, which at that point, Pittsburgh was lousy. Chargers haven't beaten anybody of note yet, and they got 2 games here at home that they're going to win. They got New Orleans, which is crippled, and got Cleveland, which is laying in the gutter because of all the injuries and no quarterback. So they could be 5-3, but I thought they were going to be 7-1 out of the gate and be a player. And instead, right now, they're just struggling to try to make this player a playoff franchise.
Interesting. Like, what's your take on Harbaugh? He's been doing this now for 6 or 7 games with the Chargers. Do you see him as a head coach that's more of like a leader, kind of establishing a culture and a philosophy for an organization, or is he like in the weeds with X's and O's?
No, I think he's a leader. I think the players buy into everything that they're hearing from him on a daily basis. Like I say, his press conferences are like a tent revival speech. You have to sort through all this stuff to get to good quotes. He did make a comment after the game on Monday night that I thought was really easy to understand, and that's his persona. He said, "We don't lose. We learn how to win coming out of those games. So it's not a loss on my shoulders, but we're going to gain something from this experience to be better next time." So we'll see.
Silver linings.
Yeah, so we'll see where this goes. Kumbaya, whatever. But it's so early in the season, but they got so many people hurt. I mean, it's stunning because these are his people. He brought the whole health training center from Ann Arbor with him. These are his people. And they got so many guys busted up. This week they had 13 guys who either did not practice or were limited. Limited means you're not on the field doing 7-7s, 11-11s. Limited means you're on the sidelines doing stuff with a trainer. Last week they had 16 guys on that injured list before the Arizona game. So it takes time to get guys hurt, and hamstring injuries. The wide receiver corps is just decimated.
Yeah, that play down the field. What's that guy's name? Ragnar? The wide receiver they picked up?
Jalen Reagor, former number 1 pick, New England, Philadelphia, released because drop balls.
And sure enough, that's what happened with the Chargers.
Got out of his hand.
Yes, I mean that was just a brutal play. But going back to these games on Sunday, I like the Vikings. I like it kind of everything they're about because we thought this J.J. McCarthy thing was going to be real special. Then he went down and say Sam Darnold's the quarterback, and geez, this guy's been doing great.
Yeah. It'll be a challenge now. Suddenly, I mean, the Rams feel pretty good about themselves right now, and they've had just a horrible siege of injuries. Now they're starting to get a chunk of these guys back. And those kids last week, That Rams game against the Raiders, I mean, they played really hard, and they played fast, and they took the ball away from the Raiders. So we'll see if they can duplicate that again here in this Thursday night game against Minnesota. Okay, that's all things NFL. We got one other item here. Flip the page. Next topic about pro football.
NFL notebook. We've got DeAndre Hopkins at the very top of the list.
Yeah, let's just go through what just transpired. You know, there've been a trade of wide receivers all over the place. DeAndre Hopkins, who's had a good career but kind of a tainted career, he gets traded. Hopkins goes from the Tennessee Titans to the Kansas City Chiefs. And a couple of weeks ago, you made an astute comment. You asked me about the leadership of Kansas City because the Chiefs have just been ravaged by injuries too. And I told you, just keep an eye on Brett Veach. He will find a veteran guy to come in to fill the hole. He got Kareem Hunt, the journeyman running back who's had nothing but success since he went back to Kansas City. They just got DeAndre Hopkins. And this guy runs routes. This guy catches balls. Got 943 receptions, 79 touchdowns. He is what they don't have right now when they break the huddle goal line of scrimmage. Veteran receiver you can trust to run the route right, to catch the play, and get yards after catch. So DeAndre Hopkins is going to play this week for Kansas City. Back at the end of preseason, to me it was really surprising the Rams traded their leading tackler, their inside linebacker, Ernest Jones. He wound up getting traded to Tennessee. It was a contract issue. He's now back in the NFC West. He was traded from Tennessee to Seattle. So, now the Rams are going to see their former leading tackler playing inside linebacker in Seattle. That's a good acquisition for the Seahawks. He's a real thumper. Cooper KUPP, he's been beset by injuries. His name is out there on the trade market, which shocks me that the Rams would be shopping him. But the Rams do have salary cap issues looking down road. Cooper KUPP's got $51 million owed on his contract. But he's back, and he's going to play tonight. KUPP, he's got 585 receptions. He's got 52 touchdowns. They owe him $55 million left on the contract the rest of this season and 2 following seasons. We'll see if the Rams trade him. I think it'd be a terrible disservice to their fans if they let him go because he's such a productive guy. But he's had injuries now 3 years in a row. Raiders have a new quarterback, Desmond Ridder, former Atlanta Falcon.
Yeah.
He was a starter for a year and a half, serviceable. I guess the best thing I can say about him is he manages games and doesn't make a hell of a lot of mistakes. His record is 8-9 as a starter in Atlanta, but he's completed 64% of his passes, 14 touchdowns. He just manages games. And the numbers on Gardner Minshew, who's going to start this weekend because Ritter's not up to speed on the playbook yet. Just think about this. The gunslinger, quarterback rating 74. He's the 31st ranked quarterback in the NFL this season, Minshew. He's got 4 touchdowns. He's now got 10 turnovers. He's taken 17 sacks. That's not the answer for the Raiders.
No, not at all.
So I would assume Desmond Ridder might be the starting quarterback maybe by next week. And the other quarterback that just surfaced, and in Cleveland they're looking for another quarterback, Bailey Zappe. He's a kid that came out of Western Kentucky, spent a couple years in New England as a backup, and when he had to play was productive anyhow. He got caught up with the coaching change, and they cut him loose. Bailey Zappe had been in Kansas City as an insurance policy quarterback on the developmental squad. But the NFL rule is you can sign a guy off somebody else's developmental squad and you can play him. He has to go to the active roster. You can't sign Bailey Zappe and put him on your squad. He's got to go to the active roster. Bailey Zappe's on the active roster. Cleveland has just signed him there. So those are names out there in my NFL notebook.
So let's go to Desmond Ridder because I'm curious about the Raiders. Do you think this is more like an addition by subtraction? Just by getting a neutral quarterback in there, maybe the Raiders can win?
They still don't have a running game. They've got a hole at wide receiver because Devontae Adams is now gone.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that they got enough weapons. That rookie tight end out of Georgia, Bowers, is catching everything. That's Rookie of the Year candidate right there. But I don't think you can live with just your tight end being the only productive guy, and they got injuries at wide receiver. But, You get Desmond Ridder, you probably won't have the turnovers.
Right. That's what I'm thinking.
Minshew's turnover ratio is just through the roof. You can't live with that. So I would assume Ridder, if he gets the chance to play either maybe this weekend or maybe next week, at least it'll be a different thing. But they don't have any weapons. I mean, Zamir White, who is supposed to be the back, has been dinged up. He's finally back, but he's not had a good game yet. And now you don't have Devontae. The other tight end, Mike Mayers, is gone with personal problems. Everything's kind of fallen apart. And there was so much excitement and optimism from the Raider fans to start the season. So I think Ridder plays sooner than later.
Interesting. And I'm curious to see how this all shakes out, because Raider fan thought they had a decent team this year, assuming they got average play from the quarterback.
But they lost the defensive tackle, Gerald Wilkins, who came from Miami, and that's a hell of a player, and he's had knee scope. They lost both the defensive ends on the other side of Max Crosby with season-ending knee surgeries. That's been a big thing. And then Max Crosby got hurt, and he's been playing through a bruised knee. He is finally back, but they're missing so many chunks from Wilkins to the two other defensive ends. One of their linebackers has been hurt, so just everything that's gone wrong, that could have gone wrong, has gone wrong the first 7 weeks of the season.
Well, that's, typical for the Raiders these days. Last question, DeAndre Hopkins, he was with Deshaun Watson in Houston, wasn't he?
He's been all over the place. He's been with a lot of different clubs.
How old is he?
Yeah, 32, and he's a walk free agent at the end of the season. But Kansas City doesn't care. The guy's productive, and you play on an offense with Mahomes. Mahomes makes you even more dangerous.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So I think it's typical Brett Veach. Plug in a guy, and these guys turn out to be very productive. And Hopkins is going to get a lot of snaps, and I'm sure he's glad to be out of Nashville because that situation's terrible. I mean, Will Levis, the young quarterback of the Titans, has been hurt. And his play has degraded terribly. I mean, he was a hot rookie last season, but not right now. So Hopkins goes from last place Tennessee to first place Kansas City, and he's thankful. And he's got a chance to show himself with a good quarterback.
And maybe a Chiefs three-peat.
Yeah. Oh, I think that's the rationale for doing this. They needed help, and they got a guy who can play. Okay, we go. You an NFL fan? Jump into the fans forum chat box. John will make sure that if it's a good take, it doesn't suck. You'll get a chance to be on.
Yeah, I've heard that line before.
Yeah. We go from that to this, shooting 3-point shots. Hoops.
Yeah. The NBA. You have power rankings, Hacksaw?
Yeah. I wrote a column on my website this week, which you should check out. It's my NBA preview. I'm just going to briefly run through the hot teams here and tell you why I rated them. They are the champions till somebody knocks them off. And what Boston did on opening night was pretty impressive. Jason Tatum had 37 on opening night. And you got Jaylen Brown. Kristaps Porzingis will be back. He's had this calf issue. He's on the injured list. You got the bench led by the old guy Al Horford and Derek White, who's an outstanding shooter. I think Boston is still the champion team to beat. I think Oklahoma City is the second best team in the league. I think they're about to arrive after the rebuild. They got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who I think is a brilliant playmaker. Young guy, Jalen Williams. They got Chet Holmgren.
Yeah.
Big center out of Gonzaga. Now, a lot of people didn't pay much attention to him last year because Wembanyama came in and stole all the thunder with San Antonio. But Holmgren's a good player. And they went out in the marketplace and they got some real grit with Alex Caruso, kind of a tough guy guard who just is in your face all the time and he can shoot the three. So I think Oak City is the second best team in the league. Dallas has got a lot of age, and I'm concerned about Dallas, but Luka Doncic is back. The thing is, does this calf problem become lingering? But you got Doncic, you got another year with Kyrie Irving, who kind of played as a good teammate last season. They got Klay Thompson, who's come off all those injuries at Golden State. He's had a good camp. They got a young guy in Derek Lively. They got a young backup center in Daniel Gafford. I think there's a lot of good things in Dallas, as long as Doncic stays on the floor. Phoenix has a new coach. Mike Budenholzer had success in Milwaukee, got fired. He demands defense. We saw the Suns with a big comeback performance. Almost beat the Lakers the other night in the opener, but they got Devin Booker. They got Kevin Durant. Brad Beal is finally healthy after all the years of injuries in Washington, so that bears watching. And they got a young point guard that I think is going to be better than anybody realizes, Tyus Jones. So if Budenholzer can get these guys to play legitimate defense in Phoenix, I think they'll be playing into the spring. It sounds weird to say Denver, champions, might only be the 5th best team in the NBA, but I'm saying it. They do have Jokic. They do have Murray. They do have Aaron Gordon. They do have Michael Porter. They did add Russell Westbrook, but they lost a guy. They lost Kentavious Pope. And he's a gritty leader, firebrand. He's gone to Orlando as a free agent. I wonder if all the miles that Jokic has put on that body finally catches up to him. And I think we're talking about injuries and miles and experience and guys getting hurt. Big question mark about Milwaukee. You got Giannis back, but he had a lot of health issues last year. You got Damian Lillard, second year, came from Portland, but he had calf and Achilles problems. Chris Middleton is not starting the season. He's had problems with double surgeries on his ankle. They did in the offseason. Milwaukee went out and they got themselves 2 pretty good players, Taurean Prince, the ex-Laker, and Gary Trent, who came from Toronto. Those guys are shooters. Those guys can give them points off the bench. So the health issue in Milwaukee, I think, really needs to be paid attention to. Other ones, Lakers. I'm going to give you a comment about what I saw opening night with the Lakers. Your coach, J.J. Redick, this guy's wired. He's different. I don't know if he can do this for 80 games. This guy did not sit down. This guy was chirping at all times, lecturing his players, coaching them every trip up and down the floor, barking at the referees. His timeout sales pitches were so intense. I'm just wondering if he wears himself out. How can you act like that for an entire night, 80 nights a season? And I wonder if the players get tired of lectures and players get tuned out. He's mandated the offense runs through Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis scored 36 points that first game. Sounds great in theory. Are you meaning to tell me you're going to make LeBron subjective to Anthony Davis's talent? That's an issue. What do we see with Dalton Connect? He looked a little overwhelmed with his first game, but he's had some good games in preseason, so that bears watching. And the Lakers are good until AD and LeBron gets hurt. And their history is they're good till AD and LeBron get hurt. And then the whole thing changes. So right. I'm not rating the Lakers inside my top 10. A lot of people think they're maybe a 5th-place team at best in the West. Philadelphia started the season with injuries. You look at Joel Embiid. He's got these problems with the knees, and now he's not started the season. You got Paul George, and he got hurt with a calf injury. He's not with them to start the season. So Philly, they got a great young player in Tyrese Maxey. I just don't know that Philly, if those guys aren't going to be 100% for the whole season, that's an issue. Minnesota, that game I saw against the Lakers, they looked so disjointed. They looked like they got chemistry problems because they traded Karl Anthony Towns to the Knickerbockers, and they got Julius Randle, who sometimes is good and sometimes is not good. That could be a real trouble spot in the league. Love Houston's young guys. Holy cow, at Jalen Green. They got a stockpile of kids, but that's it. They're kids. I don't know that they're upper echelon yet in the NBA. Old guys. You got Steph Curry. You got Draymond Green. You got Jonathan Kuminga. The rest of them are just kids. I just don't know the age factor in Golden State's going to make them upper echelon. And in Miami, you got Pat Riley's team, and they still got Jimmy Butler, but there's a whole pile of attitude issues wrapped around who's happy, who's not happy, playing time, etc. And Pat Riley, sole authority is his coach Eric Spoelstra. That thing has not been good from an emotional standpoint. There's too many mood swings. Part of the problem is Jimmy Butler and who he is and the way he plays. And when it's going great, he's great. When it's not going great, you got all kinds of problems on your bench or in your locker room. So I got Miami as an afterthought, but those, in essence, those are my top 10 to 12 teams in the league. So I threw a lot of information at you. Don't dribble the ball off your foot and don't shoot an air ball. John Riley's opinion on hoops.
Well, the thing, you mentioned the teams, but you look at that list of the 6 logos, and then the first thing that jumps out to me is no Lakers, no Warriors, no Clippers. So it's like no California teams, right? You know, so that was odd. But I do want to talk about the Suns. Did you watch the game last night? Suns, Clippers in the new arena, the Intuit Dome. What did you think of that?
Yeah, it was electric. And the owner, he's such a great man, Steve Ballmer. He's going to have a heart attack jumping around. I mean, he was like a fan. He was just wired. But at the end of the day, you can't ask James Harden to play 39 minutes every night. At his age, no. And they just don't have enough firepower on that roster. So I think it's going to be a non-playoff team, you know, and I don't think Kawhi Leonard is going to be a big-time contributor. I mean, he can't play. They just this week announced out indefinitely. And we talked about it on the Monday podcast. This is after months and months of rehab since last April, and he's still got problems, even after he had scar tissue scope right around the time he left the Olympic team. So I think this is a lost year, and I think that they're going to probably be in the lottery, and I just don't know how much mileage you can expect to get out of Kawhi Leonard, who's had a brilliant career, but all these surgeries, had 3 surgeries on that right knee for 3 different things, have all caught up to him.
Yeah, the team's in trouble, but that arena is cool.
Oh, it's really different.
And with that ribbon screen up, goes all the way around, and that big wall of people that they modeled after Viejas Arena in San Diego. Yeah. So there's good on Ballmer, you know, for doing it his way, putting his money into this thing, not making taxpayers pay for it. One team I'm interested in is the San Antonio Spurs. You know, we've talked about how some of our former Aztecs have been waived on that team. But do you think Wembanyama's in a spot where he can, you know, move up a notch or two in terms of development?
Yeah, and they added Chris Paul, the veteran guard, because they were so young. It was like coaching a rookie league team, like coaching a college team. And Popovich did a good job, and Wembanyama was beyond everybody's expectations. But I think they don't have enough bigs to really be tough enough along the baseline. But Popovich is such a great coach that I think they'll be competitive. Maybe they'll be above 500. Maybe they'll be a first-round playoff team, but not upper echelon yet. They have not delved a great deal into free agency. I think they really need to go find another warrior on that front line, a Draymond Green type persona to help buttress how good that kid is. And Wembanyama is just a great, great talent. So yeah, and he was one. You know, I said last year on the podcast, must-see TV. You got to watch San Antonio game and see Wemby from France. Well, this year's must-see TV, you got to watch Memphis, not for Ja Morant, but for Zach Edey from Purdue, because everything that I've read about how he changes things defensively for Memphis just because of his reach and his footwork is far better than anybody expected, and he doesn't get into foul trouble. So Memphis's rookie center is the one you got to watch this year, kind of like we watched Wembanyama last year in San Antonio.
What about Knicks fan? Do they have anything to hope for?
They do, but this trade is kind of strange. They're getting Karl Anthony Towns, but see, they lost their center. They lost Isaiah Hartenstein, who had really grown in to be a tough guy in the paint. You're coming in the paint, you're going to get knocked down. I got 5 fouls, and I'll use them on you. And plus, he became an offensive thrust, and he became a rebounder. Hartenstein jumped. He went to Oklahoma City. That's why I got the Thunder where the Thunder are. So the Knicks are going to be good. They got Jalen Brunson, who can just light it up. I think he's one of the best guards in the league. Does not get a hell of a lot of national recognition yet, but I don't know that they have enough people. I do like Thibodeau, the coach. You will play defense for me, damn it. So I think the Knicks are fun to watch. They're going to grind. They got Spike Lee in the front row just losing his mind every home game at the Garden. But I don't know that they have enough right now. But we'll see. We'll see if Towns becomes a force, because Towns could not play with Rudy Gobert in Minnesota. That was like oil and water. It was just a bad combo. So
it was also like a big salary dump too, wasn't it?
Well, yeah. And Minnesota's ownership, and they're about to sell the franchise. But I don't think they got fair value. I mean, they got Julius Randle, who can be good some nights, but you never know, Tuesday to Thursday, Saturday to Sunday, which Julius Randle is going to show up. So that bears watching. You're an NBA fan. Feel free, got a comment on the Lakers or the Clippers or the best teams in the league, feel free to join us. This podcast is brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers, 9 store locations to serve you in San Diego, and the new one that's opened up in Orange County. We like to use the phrase around here, build it or fix it. We guarantee you will enjoy it for the rest of 2024 and into 25 because of Dixieline Lumber. John? You think there's a few people up here? Look at that list of people who've joined us in Fans Forum. You got stars next to everybody's name. John's pre-screens the hottest takes. It's your turn to take over your segment of your show with your people.
There's a lot of good discussion even amongst the guys in the chat. People are debating upon the 2-3-2 and the 2-2-1-1-1 format.
That's called verbal gunfire.
You're seeing it. Yeah, it's going on. So it's all good. So let's go here to Raul to kick it off. Leah, John, what is one Fernando Valenzuela moment that you can recall on or off the field?
That's a good question. I mean, if I close my eyes, all I see is Fernando's windmill windup and the high kick, and his eyes looking to the stars, and then the ball's right on you. That's the memory I have of Fernando. I interviewed him twice through interpreters. Very quiet, very humble. That's the kind of person he was. And he became a broadcaster, which was kind of interesting. He worked on the Spanish broadcast of Dodgers baseball for 14 years, I think it was. A great man. I mean, ambassador, not just what he accomplished on the mound by doing this, but the ambassador he became for Dodger baseball, and in essence, baseball itself, for the Latino community up and down California, and obviously in Mexico. He relit the love of the Latino community for the grand old game. That's my memory of him.
Well, you know, I obviously remember him being with the Dodgers initially and that great run they had. And the hysteria all across America. It's like, who is this guy? It was like the next coming of Mark the Bird Fidrich, but, you know, in terms of a sensation. But I do remember when he came to the Padres, I remember they traded for him. Did he come from St. Louis in a deal maybe? And I was like, Fernando Valenzuela, you know, and he actually did really well. And I found myself really rooting for him in his few years here.
It's one of the few times I got lectured by somebody while doing a talk show in which that person who lectured me was correct. I've told you the story. I was doing a remote in the parking lot at Jack Murphy Stadium.
Yeah.
And this was after the Padres had gotten Fernando, and he was on his last legs. I mean, he had arm problems. His numbers had dropped drastically. And I just made an off-the-cuff comment about, did the Padres really need to do this? It comes off looking like a publicity stunt. And that was right. It was part of my 4 o'clock. Here's what's going on in the world of sports. Here's what Hacksaw thinks.
The best 15 minutes.
That's right. Damn good, too. And by 5 o'clock, who comes marching out of the Padre office down into the parking lot where we were set up and broadcasting but Larry Lucchino?
Hey.
And he took exception to my comment that this was a publicity stunt. And I looked at him and said, well, the stats don't bear out that this is anywhere near the Fernando that was there. Anyhow, he wound up going 13-8 the next year for the Padres.
Yeah.
I mean, he really had an integral impact for a short period of time. But what a great ambassador for baseball. Just phenomenal. And the hearts he touched, et cetera. So...
yeah, he's like a hero. You know, he's like a superhero. And I just love that when a ball player is so beloved, it goes beyond the scope of sports. Because a lot of everyday Americans that don't care about baseball know about Fernando.
Sure. We'll wait and see. This first game of the World Series, people going to show up wearing sombreros?
Yeah, you believe it. Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for the comment, Roll.
Okay, let's go here to Callan. Callan has a bunch of comments for us. He says, howdy, gents. Saw in the wake of Steve Ballmer opening up the Intuit Dome and his commitment to the Clippers, who would you put on your Mount Rushmore of sports owners?
Well, but that you know, Mount Rushmore's only got, what, 4 stone faces?
Yeah.
I mean, how many great owners have we had in all the different sports? And by the way, Ballmer's never gotten the Clippers to the NBA Western Conference Finals, much less the championship series. I can't put Ballmer up on any Mount Rushmore for a period of time until they actually accomplish things. You know, if you're asking me if it was just the NBA Mount Rushmore, it's got to involve Red Auerbach, Boston. Mm-hmm. It's obviously got to involve Jerry Buss, Lakers. You know, and after that, you know, are we just talking owners, or we're talking Mount Rushmore of players? I mean, we got so many phenomenal players. So that's a too simplistic question to a very complex set of talent levels that you got to look at. But Ballmer's heart's in the right place, and we'll see. I think it's a lottery team by virtue of the injury to Kawhi and the loss of Paul George, and they do have picks. And then we'll see what they do in terms of free agency, because the one thing about him, he's been really active. I mean, he tried to do it with Chris Paul and Blake Griffin. and they got close, and then they broke down with injuries. They tried to reinvent it with what they did with Paul George and with Kawhi Leonard, and they got close, and now free agency and Kawhi's injuries have dismantled that drive to the postseason. But the guy's unbelievably successful as a businessman. My goodness. I mean, the litany of things he's done in the computer industry is just through the roof. And he must be a great salesman because he's gotten all these players to want to come play for him. And this stadium, this arena, is shiny. It's really spectacular.
Yeah, Steve Ballmer's like the Energizer Bunny, man. That guy is still going all the time. And, he went to college with Bill Gates. He was just interviewed on 60 Minutes like a few weeks ago.
Yes.
And he came in as, I think, CEO of Microsoft like in 1979. And so obviously he's one of the richest men in the world. Good on those guys on the Clippers. Yeah.
So we go on. Callum, thank you for the comment.
Okay. I had another comment about this on Callum's point. It seems to me that sports owners, more of them are villains than there are heroes. I think about, Marge Schott or the former owner of the Clippers.
Donald Sterling.
Yeah.
There are some bad citizens who are rich people that have money that just say, my God, how did they get to where they got in life when you understand who these people are?
But there's very few Peter Seidlers.
Yeah, exactly. There's very few successful entrepreneurs like Bob Kraft. And Steinbrenner was unbelievably successful in the shipbuilding business, but it was so bombastic as a Yankees owner that a lot of people hated him. So it comes and goes. Do they win? How do they win? How are they viewed in the community if they win? I mean, we check a lot of different boxes here. The O'Malleys are, I think, the modern-day greatest baseball owners of all time. The Maras, the Rooneys, the greatest, obviously, NFL owners of probably all time. Jerry Buss, just absolutely phenomenal during the course of his life with Laker basketball. So we move on.
Okay. This is, I'll give you like a little taste of this. This is what's been going on in the chat. This is from Killa Noez. The 2-3-2 format. Road teams have the advantage, don't they?
Well, if you win one of the first two, yeah. You get into a hole 0-2, now you got problems. Again, Fall Classic, we're talking great teams here. You can lose a game at home in the Fall Classic, but you could probably win that game back at Yankee Stadium. So if you're going to pull off an upset, if you win one of the first two on the road, that really puts you in the driver's seat. But obviously, these are not the Marlins, the White Sox, or Pirates here. We're talking Yankees, Dodgers, and they have the ability to walk into the other guy's yard and come away with a victory or two.
See, as a kid, I remember, at least I think it was the World Series. It was 2-2, 1-1-1. And that 75 Red Sox is like so important in my life. And if I recall, they would go from one city to the next game would be back. And so they were heroes and villains, and they would flip, the spot, when they go to the opposing stadium. And that was so much fun. And the pressure points were so interesting. And when they did 2-3-2, it took a little bit of that off,
But when you're going coast to coast travel, that's really hard with one off day. And the other thing is TV schedules now come into play here as to when they want these games aired on TV. So, and then, if you go 7 games, then you get a fatigue factor going. You're playing, you're getting right back on the plane, you're going across country, getting off the plane, and then you got to play the next day, and then you got to back on the plane and come back. So that's why it's structured a little bit different. I think Players Association, I think, had a little bit of impact there. By the way, they're not playing they were not playing in November when you and I were kids watching the Fall Classic. It was over by the second week of October.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, things are a lot different now. I think they'll shorten the season to 154.
Do you know any owners who want to give any money back?
Yeah, no.
Okay, you just answered your dumb question. Thank you. Next one.
Let's go here to Roy. He says, Dodgers in 5 or 6. Dodgers in 5 if they win the first 2 at home. If Dodgers split at home, Dodgers in 6. Dodger lineup will win the World Series for the Dodgers.
The only thing you're discounting, Roy, though, is Dodger pitching, Johnny Allstaff, which a.k.a. is bullpen day. That is Aaron Judge, and that is Soto, and that is Stanton, and that is Verdugo. And that is that young shortstop who's playing really well. I mean, the Yankees have a lot of bats. And so I'm not sure that Dodger bullpen day, Johnny Allstaff, as Dave Roberts called him, I don't know that the Dodger bullpen can escape all things Yankees. The flip side, Yankees have the edge in starting pitching, but I don't think the Yankees bullpen is all that great. And that could mean if the Dodgers are trailing, the Dodgers, I think, have the ability to put things together. So it's gonna be a fun series. It's so cool.
Roy is a loyal follower, and he posts a lot in Instagram and here as well. And yeah, he's a huge Dodger guy. So, the Dodger fans, they've been so close for so many years getting to the playoffs and getting ejected. I wonder if they're just really nervous. Like, is Dave Roberts going to blow it again?
No, I don't think so, because Dave's kind of preached to these guys, let's just go play your game. Let's just play Dodger baseball. Let's have some fun. And even though there was a lot of pressure when they were down 2-1 to the Padres, what did they do? They just went out and they just took control of the series, and they had a lot of fun. That's a really, really good Dodger roster. And I saw Roy. I thought, I've never met anybody that's had oxygen intake problems. It was a little blue. He's a Dodger fan. That's why. That's why Dodger likes me. I showed up with my Dodger hoodie last week, and what color am I wearing today?
Yeah,
I think it is. I'm not sure. I'm colorblind. That's a problem.
No, that's blue.
That's blue. Okay.
Yeah.
What shade of blue is it?
I think that's like Hawaiian blue, like the Detroit Lions.
Okay. And what the hell are you wearing? Is that oil can gray or something?
Something like that. Yeah.
From the garage? Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Next question. Thanks, Roy.
Okay, let's go to Angel. Age 4, I knew how big Fernando-Mania was when Televisa televised Dodgers game wherever Fernando Valenzuela pitched, albeit on tape delay. When he pitched, it was poetry in motion. Gracias por la memoria, Toro.
El Toro. I agree with you. Well said. And TV did not do much in terms of covering Major League Baseball. And when Fernando-Mania arrived, they televised his starts. And when he was removed, it went off the air. They televised him. It's like Japanese baseball. That's what they did when I think it was Ichiro, when Suzuki first came to Seattle. They would televise the Mariners up until the point he got taken out of the game. And when he left the game or he didn't play, they didn't televise. It was strange. Oh, but his impact as an ambassador in baseball. And like I say, the ceremony in Mexico in which you remember your family members who are deceased, I guess it's called the Day of the Dead. I think it's on November 1st, which I think is next Friday. But evidently they're going to have Dodger pennants and the Mexican flag in memory of Fernando Valenzuela.
That's cool.
Nationwide, that is cool.
When I think of Fernando Valenzuela, I always just think of him with Vin Scully.
Yeah.
And they had a really nice relationship, and Vin is always telling Fernando's story, so it's always fun to go back and listen to those broadcasts.
I remember him vividly talking about, he'd do the pregame, he'd start the broadcast. It's Sombrero Saturday at Dodger Stadium.
Nice.
Pull up a chair. Fernando is going to start high school. So.
Well, I saw like a clip online just a few days ago where Vin was thrown out the first ball, and then he kind of faked an arm injury. And he goes, I need another lefty. And then Fernando came out of the dugout, and this is like a few years ago. But, Fernando, I saw that photo of him online that he had to take a step back from his broadcasting duties, and he had lost so much weight. And then, boom, he's gone.
He went very quickly.
Yeah.
And he's a very private person. And even as a player, as a superstar, making mega money, he was just a really private person. But so great story. Angel, thank you for joining us.
Okay. Well, here's Killa also says, number 34, remember its patch will be worn.
Exactly.
So that's cool. I like seeing that.
I wonder if the Dodgers will wear a black armband as part of their uniforms. That would be kind of significant, because the minute you see that, the minute you know what it references.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be interesting if they wear a black armband.
Are the Yankees wearing a black armband? I know they've done it in the past.
That's a good question. I don't recall. I don't think they've done it this year. I mean, their uniforms are just basic gray with just the dark blue thing on it.
Hey, our video cut out. Oh, now we're back.
It's your black shirt.
Yeah, that must be what it is.
Oil stained.
Okay, let's go here to Willie. He goes, been a baseball fan in Ohio since the late 50s. When I watched Fernando pitch, Mike Brito behind home plate with the radar gun, and Vin Scully, talking about him, during the play-by-play, it was as close to heaven as baseball could be.
It's so cool. Mike Brito, legendary scout. And he was the pioneer in Mexico for the Dodgers, in Cuba for the Dodgers, and he did stuff in Japan. I mean, the Dodgers internationally have been one of the greatest franchises of all time. And, of course, the Dodgers are the ones that broke the color barrier with Jackie Robinson. But I went to Vero Beach 3 years in a row to do my sports talk show there when I was on the old 690. And once we became a San Diego, LA station, and they sent me to Vero Beach to do my show for a whole week. It was just an absolute thrill. I'd see Brito. He'd walk the back lots. He had a big Panama hat. He had a beige Panama hat. Always wore a floral shirt with a tie, and a pink suit or a beige suit. He was dressed to the nines as a fashion plate, and always had a cigar. Just interesting persona. But boy, what a really good scout.
Yeah, and it's kind of cool where you're kind of known as the guy that discovered Fernando Valenzuela.
Amongst others.
Yeah, so, good on him. He's got that relationship with Fernando going back many years, but I do remember that sometimes the TV cameras would focus on him a little bit, and you're like, oh, yeah, that guy,
With the gun.
Okay. This has been going on, this 232-22111, according to 4RXLA. The World Series has never been 22111. You're thinking of the NBA Finals that went to that format for about 20 years before going back to 232.
I could have sworn it was 22111 back in the day, but that was a long time ago. And again, long time ago, you talked about the Reds and the Red Sox. Well, that's a short plane flight. Even if it's the running Redbirds, St. Louis Cardinals, and the Yankees, that's a short flight. When you start talking about coast to coast, that's different.
It is, but it's always confusing. Like at first, it was the different NBA and the NHL all did them differently, and now I find myself every year I got to remember. Okay, this is the wild card round, so it's best of 3. The next one's best of 5, and then best of 7 for the AL, NLCSs,
and then World Series.
Yeah,
and the World Series back in the day. I bet you didn't know this. The World Series was a best of 9.
That must be like before Babe Ruth, right?
Well, that was the era of Joe Jackson and the White Sox Black Sox scandal. That was a best of 9 series.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's a lot of baseball.
Next question.
Okay, let's move on down the list to, let's go here to John. And he says, Joey Bosa is a China doll. He gets hurt on the first play of the season. Sheesh.
Yeah, 5 years in a row he's had something, and it's always something. It's not that he's not in shape. It's just that he gets hurt. Guys fall on his ankle. He'd roll up on his knees. Now he's got a hip issue. He's not practicing at all. I think this will be his final year here, even though he and Khalil Mack both restructured down the Charger contracts to help him with a salary cap. You're not going to pay this guy $25 million or $30 million because he's always hurt. Can't stay on the field. And it's too bad. He started like a house of fire. I always thought, though, he was really undersized to be a warrior-type defensive end. He was more of a rush guy, and they've kind of employed him more as a linebacker than anything else. But real tough time for him right now. Not playing at all, not contributing at all, and no sense at all when he's going to be back.
We had fun Monday night watching the game together.
Yeah.
And I remember when the camera went to Bosa and you see him in the street clothes and you're like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah, we got the wrong Bosa, that's for certain.
Definitely.
Now, Nick's had injuries too. Nick's had 2 major injuries in his career in San Francisco. It probably comes with the position those guys play. John, thank you.
Okay, let's keep on a trucking here. And 4RXLA was commenting here. He goes, Munson died in 78. Now, he clarified it was 79 in a future tweet here, but which was the same year Dent hit the home run to put the New York Yankees in the playoffs. Reggie hit 3 homers in 77. Munson was also on the 76 World Series.
Mm-hmm. Those dates are kind of hazy for me. I covered the Munson tragedy. It was just a terrible thing to have to cover. And I was friends with Thurman Munson. And I worked in Akron. He lived in North Canton. Actually, he came up one night and stayed in the studio for a whole hour just taking phone calls just because he wanted to hang around.
Really?
He was a neat guy. Played at Kent State right next door. And I covered that funeral. Oh, I covered the plane crash. When I got a sign down there that said, you need to get to the Akron-Canton airport. There's been a plane crash, and the feeling is it might be Thurman Munson's plane. And it was. And he was on an off day. And he was practicing takeoffs and landings in some type of small Lear jet. and he missed the runway, went through a fence, and he broke his neck, and he got trapped. They couldn't get him out. He couldn't get out of the cockpit, and of course there was a fire, and he died because of that, and they couldn't get in to save him. And the funeral was just, I mean, the two things in the world that I'll never forget was covering the funeral, and then I covered the Marshall University plane crash in West Virginia in 1970. But to see the Yankees, I mean, they were all at the front on both sides in the church in North Canton, and to see Steinbrenner and to see Billy Martin just wept through the whole process, and Reggie and Catfish. Oh man, it was terrible. It took the Yankees forever to kind of recover from Thurman Munson's death. A great player. Holy cow, what a leader. Not, he was not going to hit 45 home runs. He was not going to bat 328, but just what firebrand, is that the correct term? I mean, you talk about in the clubhouse, this is my team. You are going to follow me. I am picking up the flag, and we're going to go get it done. And he just played. He grinded. He was a really good guy.
It's interesting that you were at that funeral with all those Yankees there. That must be like watching a Hollywood movie kind of unfold with all these celebrity ball players, wearing suits at the funeral. That would have been an interesting event.
Yeah, it was just emotional. And I was doing freelance for the Associated Press. So I had set up that when they did eulogies, I was able to record the eulogies, and I fed them back to the Associated Press radio network in Washington, D.C., and then I did live, not live reports, but I did voice reports from the site before the ceremony, right after the ceremony. It was like being in a press box at a Major League playoff game. There's so many media that were there. We all were cordoned off to a certain aspect of the church, but something I never, ever forget. So it's interesting. Go from a young broadcaster who was going to be a disc jockey and play the hits to doing sports to covering Thurman Munson's funeral and covering the tragedy on the hillside at West Virginia at Marshall University. So done a lot of things, including broadcasting bad football games and some Super Bowls that turned out to be bad games too.
That was a bad one. Yeah, it was. Okay, let's keep moving on. Let's go to Greg. I want to talk about USC. He says, Lee, what are your thoughts now on Lincoln Riley at SC? Is he on the hot seat?
A lot of people not real happy about this. Hey, how has this worked out? This Pac-12 to the Big Ten. How has this worked out? If you separate the Oregon Ducks at 6-0,
right?
Everybody else from that conference that went to this conference, their combined record is 4-10. And then if you add in those guys who went from that conference to the ACC, that's been pretty bleeping bad too. So this whole thing of USC, UCLA, and Washington, Oregon going there, and Cal and Stanford going there, that hasn't worked out real well. Not worked out well for Utah in the Big 12, Arizona in the Big 12. Arizona State's had a decent start. Colorado's been some good, some bad. But the guys who went to the Big 10, 4-10, and there's still half a season to be played.
See, I that makes sense to me because, back in the day, roll the clock back 20, 30 years ago when the Pac-5 or Pac-12 was a legitimate Power 5. But before the Pac-12 broke up, they were like a 4.5. They were not at the same level as the other four conferences, but yet they were still a power conference. So I'd imagine that the recruiting probably had declined over the last 10 or 20 years, is my hunch. And we kind of knew that they were going to get smacked around in the Big Ten and even in the ACC, Stanford and Berkeley. You figured they had no chance.
And in terms of Greg's question about Lincoln Riley, he's catching a lot of crap for game management. Yeah, I mean, Riley on the left hand will say, hey, we got 4 losses. We were in the game to the final possession, all 4. On the other hand should be saying, yeah, I screwed up final possession play calling, use or lack of use of timeouts, and plays called that resulted in failures or turnovers or blocked field goals or loss of downs. They've been right there, but they're sitting there at 3 and 4 because I think his game management has really been substandard. So, and their defense is not grossly improved, and then they lost one of their defensive tackles, so decided to opt out and sit out the rest of the season in Bear Alexander. And they haven't been able to run the ball consistently, and Danton Lynn's defense has now given up lots of yardage and lots of points and lots of chunk plays. So Not a good situation at Southern Cal right now. Is he in jeopardy? No, but a lot more was expected of him. I mean, ever since the middle of last season, their record's abysmal. He's got 5-8 since the middle of last season.
Well, I just remember he was at Oklahoma, and even at Oklahoma, he wasn't over the top successful, if I recall.
He was great offensively, and defensively it was destructive.
Exactly. Now, where did Lincoln Riley coach prior to Oklahoma?
Somebody's assistant, somebody's hot coordinator somewhere.
But an offensive coordinator, definitely. Yeah, it's interesting how these guys, they become like bright as a star, and they can fade real quick. So I wonder if that's going to be his legacy.
It's a burning question as to whether or not long term, if this thing doesn't turn the corner and improve, and he's got to recruit. And I mean, he's doing it with a sixth-year quarterback that nobody knew was going to be this competitive. And Miller Moss is just, he's fierce. He's a great leader, and he makes plays. He also takes chances and throws the ball where he should never throw it. His turnover ratio is kind of high. So I don't think Lincoln Riley's in trouble right now, but if they can't flip this within the next year and a half, he might be in trouble.
Wow. Yeah, here we go.
Greg, good question. Thank you.
Okay, let's go here to to Bob. He says, I'm bullish on the Dodgers bullpen game, but I am concerned with overtaxing the pen for games 5, 6, and 7 if necessary.
Well, I think item one is, what do you get out of Flaherty? Flaherty's been good. Flaherty's not been good. That's a big issue. What do you get out of Buehler? Now, Buehler has thrown 7 shutout innings in a row his last 2 starts. He had that bad inning against the Padres when the defense betrayed him, but he stayed in the game. He's the one that told Dave Roberts, who went to pull him in about the 6th inning of that game, get the F off the mound. I'm finishing this inning. And he did. So he's got 7 straight shutout innings. But what do you get out of Buehler against the Yankees' big bats? Because if your starters, what happens to Yamamoto? If your starters get knocked around in the 2nd and 3rd inning, do you have to go to the bullpen early? Or do you let them take one for the team and you just lose the game? That's the big issue. And then when the Dodgers beat the Padres, their analytics guys did a hell of a job of matching right-hander versus Padre right-hander, choking them off. And the next inning, when the left-handers came up, they brought the left-handers in. They choked them off. But that was a one-time occurrence. So the overuse issue really becomes an issue, especially if a Buehler or a Yamamoto isn't going 4 or 5 innings into a game. Then it really puts pressure on you. And then obviously you got the bullpen game. Now, the bullpen game is supposed to be, and it's a real valid question, Bob. The bullpen game, your guy's only supposed to throw 1 frame. Every guy out of the pen, they'll use 8 guys, will throw 1 inning in the bullpen game. Maybe you ask Honeywell to go a 2nd inning, or maybe Landon Knack. But you're asking your closer and the setup guys to give me 1 quality inning each, which means you can come back the next day and use them. But if somebody gets into a 32-pitch inning, a stress inning, you know about stress, dealing with me. I mean, you get into a stress inning, John, now that impacts everybody else if that guy can't get out of that 1 inning outing.
Isn't it amazing how we thought the whole Dodger pitching staff was going to hell in a handbasket?
That's what I wrote at midseason when they were, their starting rotation was a disaster. The bullpen had a 6.58 ERA for like a month.
Yeah.
And all their guys are on the disabled list. And somebody in New York wrote a column that said, the Dodgers, they got the best pitching staff in the world on the disabled list. I mean, look at all the Dodger arms that are having surgery, or from Glasnow to Kershaw to all the young pups who pitch pretty well. They're all on the DL. So, in essence, the New York media is right. The Dodgers have a hell of a pitching staff. It's all on the disabled list.
But they're in the World Series. I mean, they've been doing, they're hitting, but hell, they shut out the Padres for 24 innings, and a lot of these guys, are playing really well. Blake Trinan is a lot of fun to watch, by the way.
On we go.
On we go. Willie has a comment here kind of clarifying things for us. The 75 World Series was 2 in Boston, 3 in Cincy, and games 6 and 7 in Fenway. Was this way for as far as I can remember into the 1940s. Okay,
well, we may have confused it with travel in the NBA, and even that's now been changed. Same thing in the National Hockey League. But that World Series, the Red Sox, that was the Carlton Fisk.
Yeah,
World Series. Oh, That was, people still talking about it. It's 2024, and we're talking about what happened in 75 because we remember.
Oh, yeah. Who was the other guy? Was it Rico Cardi? I think was on the Red Sox.
Rico Petrocelli. No?
I don't know.
Rico Cardi might have been there, too, at one time.
But I just remember there were a lot of characters. Again, it was just an impressionable time in my life.
You didn't like George C. Scott? George Scott was there, too.
Oh, I was thinking of the guy that did the movie Patton.
No, but George Scott, the slugger, that was a persona, too.
Oh, yeah. There was all those characters. It was Luis Tion, who we talked about a few weeks ago. That was a great series. It was so much fun.
Yep. On we go. Let's do a couple more here before we put a lid on it.
Okay, we're going to go to social media here, and let's get some Raider talk here. This is from Fitness Task. Did we go over this one last week? I'm not sure if we did. We need the number one pick in the 2025 draft. Brady is pretty much calling the shots now. Hired Bill Belichick and drafts Shedeur Sanders.
Well, the only problem is that they've given Tom Telesco a multi-year contract, and I don't think that Telesco could work with Belichick if Belichick wants full control. Now, if Belichick wants to be a head coach, I guess anything is humanly possible. But they're going to get, probably the way they are constructed right now with all the injuries and the problems, they're going to get a high first-round draft pick, and it might be Shedeur Sanders, it might be somebody else. This will be fascinating to watch through the rest of the season. But is Antonio Pierce the right guy? I have reservations whether he's the right guy to be head coach. But their roster they got holes in so many places in their roster at running back because they let Josh Jacobs go. Now Devontae Adams has been traded, and they just continue to have injury problems to a lot of their young players, and their offensive line has never been what they thought the offensive line would be. It's the left tackle Colton Miller from UCLA, who's like a 7 or 8 year veteran, and that's just interchangeable parts, and none of them ever stand out. I'm sorry, you got problems. You're a Raider fan. You got problems.
Someone needs to call Art Shell and Gene Upshaw to show up for work here. But you're talking about maybe Shedeur Sanders. Who are like the top 3 or 4 names for the Heisman this year?
Oh, well, the biggest disappointment has been the running back out of Oklahoma State and have not had a good season, Gordon. A lot of people thought that's a lock. Sanders, his running mate, Travis Hunter, the wide receiver cornerback, plays 102 snaps a game. He's probably will get more votes than Shedeur Sanders right there. I'd have to think. I'm so involved with baseball and the NFL. I haven't paid much attention to who are the other hot candidates out there. Maybe Dylan Gabriel at the University of Oregon. I would have thought the Alabama quarterback, but for some reason they got problems with the Crimson Tide. It's not Jalen Milroe's fault, but they're not getting the kind of support that I thought Milroe was going to get because I had him as probably a preseason All-American and maybe a Heisman Trophy candidate. The Ohio State quarterback he's a game manager. He's not a game winner. Michigan doesn't have a quarterback right now. That's become a big issue. Obviously, Clemson's got a freshman quarterback. The other Florida schools are. I will say one of the dark horses, and he's not getting any ink at all, but you should pay attention. Cam Ward at Miami, who used to be at Washington State. He's having an unbelievable statistics season for the Hurricanes. He's going to probably get votes as we go through the second half of the season. The Canes are unbeaten. Nobody in the country is paying any attention. I think they might be maybe 6th in the nation. So just off the top of my head, those are names to consider.
What about the kid from Boise State, the running back?
Well, Ashton Jeanty. Yeah, for sure. I do think a segment of the community in the Deep South, it's Mountain West Conference, it's Boise State, and we're not voting for somebody from Boise State that plays 1AA football. I mean, he said his statistical season is just absolutely amazing, and I think Jeanty's going to get a lot of votes. I don't know if he's going to get enough votes on the Eastern Seaboard, especially in the Deep South, because it's the Mountain West Conference.
Yeah, like Marshall Faulk got screwed. This guy might get screwed. Let's keep going. Talk some Padres here. This is with Parallel Post. Dylan Cease is basically Rick Sutcliffe without the nasty forkball. Dodgers exposed him. He is young. Like you, he may recover and be a viable option for the Padres in 3 years. Been listed at Hacksaw since I was a kid.
Good choice. Good taste. Nothing wrong with Cease. He should have never been allowed to go out there and pitch on 3 days rest after an 82-pitch outing the prior start against the Dodgers. Towards the end of the season, he wasn't the same pitcher. and they had solved all his mechanical problems with the delivery and where his glove was and the placement of the ball. And he had that dominant run where he threw the no-hitter, and he had a bunch of one-hitters, but it kind of got away from him at the end of the season. But what I happened to cease at the end, I think, is mismanagement by Mike SHILDT that put it all at his front door. And they're going to have to live with that through the offseason because this was their opportunity. This was a complete team, a good team. Of course, this team also stopped hitting along the way because the Dodgers just were dominant with a pitching staff that kind of came back from the dead.
Yeah. Just we're replaying these old memories that are just killing me. But when I think of Rick Sutcliffe, I mean, there's obviously he's with the Cubs in '84, and he's with the Dodgers at one point very early in his career. But did you ever hear the audio clip of him showing up in the Padres broadcast booth with Matt Vasgersian, and Sutcliffe was drunk off his ass and was...
I think I heard about it, yeah.
Yeah, and he's basically saying, Matty V, what are you doing here? You know, you should be on a national broadcast. You know, you're too good to be here for the Padres. And then shortly thereafter, Matty V was the
MLB Network and still is to this hour.
Yeah, so I always think of Rick Sutcliffe. That's a great story.
Well, Sutcliffe was in Cleveland too. I mean, he was feisty and he was competitive. He was combative, and he squeezed every ounce of baseball out of his arm. He was a good pitcher, good personality. I love him in Chicago too.
Oh yeah. Okay, let's keep on moving. We'll go to talk a little more Padres, and this is with Mike. He says, Profar stopped hitting after the All-Star break. It wasn't just the playoffs he didn't hit. It was the entire second half. How do you allow this guy to continue to hit in the third slot when he clearly reverted back to being a 240 hitter? I would have moved the rookie up to the third slot and rotated Profar back in the lineup.
Well, you're correct. Profar had 2 really bad months in there. But, you know, every one of those guys outside of Tatis and Jackson Merrill, every one of those guys really had some crappy months. I mean, Manny had a month where he hit 209. That's Manny. And then, of course, in the playoffs, he hit 179. Arise had a really bad month. Now, that might have been linked to the thumb injury. But every one of those guys had some substandard months. The season is such a grind. My God, John, it's 162 games. It's 6 months. And those guys played every minute of every game. You know, at the end of the season, I think the burning question is, what do you do with Jackson Merrill? Should you have bumped him up? I mean, he was hitting pretty well. He had one spell in early spring where he might have hit 220, and I thought, oh, pitching's caught up to him. And then we get to the next month on the calendar, and he's hitting home runs, and then you obviously saw the amazing hot spell. So, you know, did they need to rework it? They got a tough call with Profar, and Mikey, you raise a good question, because he played on the minimum contract because they signed him so late after Colorado gave up on him. And now he's hired Scott Boras. And Boras he's going to give A.J. Preller a notebook this thick with all this statistical data, because that's the sales presentation they make on behalf of everybody. And he's going to probably ask for $10 million. Well, I'm not giving. This was a career year. Profar hit 280. Career year. But it was 240 for the rest of his life. Mm-hmm. And then he didn't hit in the playoffs. I'm not going from a 1.5 base to 10 million just because Scott Boras said, read the story. Because we're talking about super utility guy who had a career year. Would I give him 5 to start? Yeah, maybe I give him 5 with bonus things if dude hits 300. But again, at the end of the season, what happened? So, tough call. Padres got tough calls. Like I said, they got 7 players they got to make decisions on.
I remember it was like roughly in mid-June, and Profar was hitting like 350 or something like that. And he was leading the league, I think, in OPS or near the very top. And I was thinking, holy crap, Profar. And then I remember his kid came out, was lobbying for him to get to the All-Star game. That was a fun story. I like Profar, the dude. But it is true. He definitely tailed off. I think the tail off began in late June, because I remember going into the All-Star break, he had cooled off.
The innings pile up on you, and he's slightly built.
Yeah.
We're not talking about, man mountain here. The wear and tear factor on these guys is just absolutely amazing. So, that's why I thought Jackson Merrill was going to tail off. He did not. He just hung in there, and he hit beyond everybody's expectations, and then he went to the new position. He played like he'd been out there his entire life, and it was pretty impressive. And he's kind of a student of the game, too. So I hope they keep Profar, but I'm not paying him $10 million because Scott Boras is on the phone.
Yeah. Well, Profar is not going to get a ton of offers for huge money. So I think he wants to
creatively finance a deal.
But he wants to be here in San Diego, just like Arise does.
But Boris is not going to let the guy be here in San Diego for $1.5 or $2 million. I mean,
probably not.
You're going to have to bump him to $5 million, and maybe you throw incentives. Jackson Merrill deserves more than the second year minimum of $800,000, so maybe you bump him to 3 or 4 with incentives. The Arise thing is a tough call because according to arbitration charts, he's going to go from 8.5 to probably 14.6. But are you going to give a 14.6 contract to a singles hitter who doesn't play a good position defensively, doesn't run the bases, and has no power? 14.6 or 14.8, whatever, singles hitter, that's a lot of money.
There's a huge debate online about the value of Luis Arise, because his numbers don't necessarily show the value that he brings by putting the ball in play all the time. I tend to like the guy.
Should he be batting lower in the order rather than get a guy on base who can't run the base as well? Would you be better served to have him batting 5th or 6th when you got the big bats on the bases and he puts the ball in play that way?
Yeah, well, I don't think he's a leadoff guy. He's no Ricky Henderson.
No.
But I thought 2 would be a good spot in the lineup, but you're right, man. Yeah, 6 could work. Maybe even...
Well, if he clogs up the bases, that's an issue.
Yeah.
So that's where we are. November into December, going to be very interesting in Padreville just because of the contracts they've got to hand out. And we've talked a little bit about Cease. We haven't talked about Michael King. And then there's Tanner Scott. If they could keep him, but man, he's going to get a lot of money on the open market as a legitimate closer.
Roy in the live chat's been saying that Tanner Scott's going to the Dodgers next year.
Anything's possible.
He's trying to stick it to the Padre fans.
Okay, one more here.
Okay, let's go here. We'll talk a little bit of Chargers football, and this is from 619 Ivan. Technically, there's only 3 or 4 teams worth of being called good teams in the NFL. So if you beat any of the other 29 teams, it doesn't matter because they are bad teams that anybody can beat. Terrible take. Go back to talking about baseball.
Well, thank you for the vote of confidence about the content and the topics on the table. Hey, at the end of the day, they got bludgeoned by a substandard Pittsburgh Steelers offensive team. At the end of the day, they got beat by Arizona, which was 2-4 and played really erratically. So how really good are the Chargers? Yes, they have 3 wins, but look at who they beat. They got a Raider team that is listless. You got a Carolina team which is on the floor, face down, and got a Denver team that's in the middle of it's going to be a long rebuild with a rookie quarterback. Those are the 3 they beat. Now, I thought they'd be 7-1. They're sitting there at 3-3. Now, they should beat New Orleans, and they should beat Cleveland because Cleveland's lost all its key players. So that'd make them 5-3. But 5-3 is a bit of a far cry from 7-1. And by the way, you still got to play Kansas City twice.
Well, they played them once already, right?
Yeah. No, they have not.
No.
So, did they? I guess they did.
I think they lost to the Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm sorry. My bad. But they still got a bunch of key games that have to be played, and they got to go play the Raiders at the end. They got to go to Kansas City at the end. So they got to go to Denver at the end. So there's a lot of stuff that still has to happen. I thought they'd be 7-1, and instead they'll be 5-3, and with a bunch of injuries. And I'll be glad to talk baseball with you anytime, Ivan, because I can cover that too.
Well, it's interesting to talk about how many bad teams there are because you go back in history, there's always been, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going 0-16 or whatever it was. There's always been a lot of bad teams. But in your opinion, was there a golden era in the NFL where we saw so many stars and such dynamic play and we really didn't have any horrible teams?
With the salary cap and everything, the methodology of business in the NFL is everybody be 500, which means we put great games. But you do have eras. You have eras of great players. I mean, the 49er era with Bill Walsh, with Montana, then Steve Young, that was absolutely phenomenal. The era of Belichick and Tom Brady, that's a special era. That once in a lifetime for a franchise. Now, the rest of the league could be mediocre, et cetera, as Ivan alludes to. But the NFL business is if you do a good job in player personnel, because we all operate by the same financial rules, if you do it and don't get guys hurt, you should be able to put a good product on the field. Doesn't always work that way vis-a-vis look at what the Cleveland Browns have become. But, they've been There have been great stretches of time with great teams, Dan Marino and Miami, and obviously what Brady did with 6 rings. And well, you got to have things fall in place. Do you draft well? Do you have a good quarterback? Do you get a stroke of luck and don't get guys hurt? Yeah. And otherwise, if you don't draft well, if you waste money on the salary cap and you make mistakes and you get burned, that's who you are. That's your management team more than anything else. Organizations win titles. Organizations find the right players, pay the right players, draft the right players, and if they do go into free agency, get the right players. Organizations fail because you're Mike Brown in Cincinnati, you're Bidwell in St. Louis, or at this point Haslam up in Cleveland. That's a long answer. You asked. That's the end of Philosophy 101 today. Thank you for coming to class.
You know, for me, that the Niners in the 80s was, for me, a gold year. Because think about the big teams that they faced. The Redskins were really good. You know, the Cowboys were good. The Giants were really good. The Bears were really good. And then even in the late 80s, if I recall, the Rams got to be very good, too.
Short period.
Yeah. So that was a pretty nice era.
They had a good run. DeBartolo was a great owner. As controversial as Eddie DeBartolo Jr. was, he was a great owner, and he had great football people and what they drafted and where they found these guys. Jerry Rice came out of Mississippi Valley State. Johnny Taylor, who was a very good wide receiver, came out of Delaware State.
That's right, yeah.
You know, and then they got Ricky Waters. And so organizations find players, a.k.a. Pittsburgh Steelers, Chuck Noll, and historically what the Steelers became, a.k.a. Al Davis, and whom he got, where he got, and that great run they had with the silver and black and all Super Bowl trophies. Things changed. Organizations can't keep doing it. Salary cap came into play along the way, and that changed the whole landscape of the NFL. Period, exclamation point.
All right.
Hey, listen, a couple of program reminders. I'm going to be on the road next week. John is going to anchor. We're doing something really different on Monday. We put together a package. It's a show that I think you're going to really enjoy. The best baseball movies of all time. Kind of celebrate the World Series. That'll be next Monday. On Thursday, we put our thinking caps on, and we came up with the idea, the best football movies of all time. Be it pro, be it college. We think you'll probably like that. So next week while I'm on the road, you get the chance to be with him. You can come sit in this chair and co-host. And just don't wear any Raider gear. I think you'll really like what we creatively did with the best baseball movies and best football movies of all time. And then I'll be back a week from Monday, back in the anchor's chair to argue with you. This podcast has been brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers. 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. You got projects, they got materials. You want ideas, they can be your best friend. Dixieline. John, take a deep breath. Can't wait for the World Series. Is it Friday yet? We got that. Then we got the great sports weekend with all the games in NFL football, too. And we'll see you a week from now. Thanks for being with us.
Yankees in 7.
Dodgers in 7.
Okay.
You'll be paying off the bet.
Okay.
When I get back. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Thank you for being with us, being part. Hope you'll tell all your friends what we do Mondays and Thursdays. Great to have you part of Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps.
Touchdown, San Diego!
For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.